Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to know everything about everyone? It's like they've turned conversations into detective missions, collecting every little detail about your life. At first, it feels harmless, maybe even flattering. But here's the truth: the more you share, the more you lose control of your narrative. Now, don't get me wrong. Connection is built on vulnerability. But there's a fine line between sharing enough to create trust and oversharing to the point where others hold the power. Today, I want to challenge you to rethink the way you share your story. Not to build walls, but to understand that mystery holding a little back can be your greatest asset. Why? Because in a world where everyone seems to overshare, protecting your privacy isn't just smart, it's empowering. Let's explore why. Privacy is one of the most undervalued assets in today's world. We live in an era where oversharing has become the norm, where social media platforms encourage us to broadcast every moment of our lives and every thought that crosses our minds. It's tempting, even addicting, to share freely, especially when likes, comments, and validation follow. But beneath the surface of this urge to reveal everything lies an essential truth. Privacy is a form of self-respect. It's not about being secretive or distant. It's about recognizing your worth and protecting the parts of yourself that matter most. When you respect your own privacy, you're sending a message not just to others, but to yourself that your life isn't a spectacle for everyone to consume. You are setting boundaries that ensure your sense of self remains intact, no matter the external pressures to share more, reveal more, or explain yourself. These boundaries act as a safeguard, allowing you to maintain your autonomy in a world that constantly tries to blur the lines between personal and public. Think about how freely we give away details about our lives. Sometimes it's subtle. You meet someone new and before you know it, sharing deeply personal stories, trying to create a connection or seem relatable. Other times it's more over, posting every vacation, every argument, or even every minor milestone on social media, broadcasting these moments for an audience that may not have your best interests at heart. It's easy to feel like openness is the only way to connect. But the truth is, there's incredible strength in knowing when to hold back. Valuing your privacy starts with understanding that not everyone deserves full access to you. People will often take the information you share and interpret it through their own biases and perspectives. They'll form opinions, make judgments, and sometimes even use your words or experiences against you. This doesn't mean you should become paranoid or distrustful of others, but it does mean being mindful of who you let into your inner world. When you overshare, you give away pieces of yourself that might not be respected or valued in the way they deserve. It's important to remember that your experiences, thoughts, and emotions are part of what makes you uniquely you. They're not commodities to be distributed indiscriminately. The act of holding certain things close is an acknowledgement of your individuality. It's a way of saying, I value myself enough to protect what's important to me. This respect for your privacy also cultivates self-trust. When you learn to set boundaries around what you share and with whom, you start to feel more grounded in your identity. You're no longer seeking external validation through the act of sharing. Instead, you're finding confidence in the knowledge that you don't need anyone else's approval to feel complete. This is a liberating realization, one that frees you from the pressure to explain yourself or seek permission to be who you are. Moreover, privacy allows you to maintain control over your narrative. When you share too much, too quickly, you risk losing that control. People might take fragments of your story and draw conclusions that don't align with your truth. They might spread rumors, misinterpret your intentions, or twist your words to suit their own agendas. By keeping certain aspects of your life private, you retain the ability to shape your own story and decide how it's presented to the world. The respect you show for your privacy also sets the tone for how others treat you. When you demonstrate that you value your own boundaries, people are more likely to respect them as well. They'll understand that your time, your energy, and your personal life are not things to be taken lightly. This doesn't just protect you from unwarranted intrusion, it also fosters healthier relationships. When you share selectively and thoughtfully, the connections you build are more likely to be based on mutual respect and genuine understanding rather than superficial oversharing. In a broader sense, valuing your privacy can also enhance your sense of mystery and intrigue. When you don't lay everything on the table, you give others the opportunity to learn about you, gradually fostering curiosity and deeper connections. There's something undeniably powerful about holding back, about letting people earn the privilege of knowing the more intimate parts of who you are. Privacy also allows you the space to grow and evolve without external interference. When you keep your goals, dreams, and struggles private, you create a safe space to navigate them on your own terms. This space is essential for personal development. It lets you make mistakes, learn lessons, and grow without the fear of judgment or unsolicited advice. In this way, privacy becomes a tool for self-discovery, enabling you to explore who you are without the noise of outside opinions. Ultimately, valuing your privacy is an act of self-care. It's about acknowledging that your inner world is precious and deserves to be protected. When you take the time to build and honor these boundaries, you create a stronger foundation for your mental and emotional well-being. You're no longer giving away your energy to people or situations that don't serve you. Instead, you're reserving it for the things and people that truly matter. Oversharing is something we've all done at some point in our lives. It might feel natural in the moment. Maybe you're trying to build a connection, find common ground, or to simply express yourself. But what we often fail to realize is that the more we share, the less impact our words and actions actually have. Oversharing can dilute your influence and strip away the power of your mystery. We live in a time when people share everything, often without a second thought. Social media, conversations with acquaintances, and even casual interactions have become outlets for broadcasting personal details. And while it might seem harmless or even engaging, there's a hidden cost to oversharing. The more you give away, the less special or significant your story becomes. Sharing too much can overwhelm others, leaving them less likely to truly listen or care. When every detail of your life is out in the open, you risk losing the depth and meaning behind what really matters. The truth is, there's something powerful about keeping certain aspects of your life private. When you don't put everything on display, you leave room for curiosity and intrigue. People are naturally drawn to what they don't fully understand. It's human nature to want to know more about someone who doesn't reveal everything all at once. When you overshare, you take away the mystery, the allure that makes people want to lean in and pay attention. Instead of being fascinated by your story, they might feel overwhelmed or even indifferent to it. It's also important to consider how oversharing can dilute the value of your personal experiences. When you constantly talk about every detail of your life, the significance of those experiences can become lost. For example, if you share your struggles and challenges with everyone you meet, they might start to see them as just another part of your everyday narrative rather than as defining moments that shaped who you are. By contrast, when you choose to share selectively, the moments you do reveal carry greater weight and meaning. Oversharing can also lead to unintended consequences. When you freely share too much information, you open yourself up to judgment, misunderstanding, and even manipulation. Not everyone who listens to you has your best interests at heart. Some people might take what you share and use it against you, whether intentionally or unintentionally. They might twist your words, spread rumors, or create narratives about you that don't align with your truth. The more you share, the more vulnerable you become to these external influences, which can ultimately dilute your ability to control your own story. In addition to protecting yourself from judgment and misinterpretation, holding back on oversharing allows you to maintain your focus. When you share less, you create space to channel your energy into things that truly matter. Oversharing can be draining. It requires emotional energy to constantly explain yourself, respond to others' reactions, and deal with the consequences of putting your life on display. By contrast, when you keep certain aspects of your life private, you conserve that energy for your goals, passions, and relationships that genuinely matter. Another subtle way oversharing can dilute your influence is by eroding your credibility. When you share every thought or experience, people might start to see you as someone who lacks discretion or self-awareness. They might question your ability to handle sensitive information or trust you with their own vulnerabilities. Conversely, when you practice discernment in what you share, you demonstrate maturity and self-control. This builds trust and respect, qualities that enhance your influence rather than diminish it. It's worth noting that oversharing isn't always about speaking too much. Sometimes it's about sharing too soon. When you reveal personal information prematurely, before you've had time to process it yourself, or before you've established trust with the other person, you risk losing the opportunity to share it in a meaningful way later. Timing is just as important as content when it comes to building influence. Knowing when to hold back and when to speak up is a skill that can elevate your ability to connect with others. Oversharing can also create a false sense of intimacy. When you share too much too quickly, you might feel closer to someone, but that connection may not be as genuine or reciprocal as it seems. True intimacy is built over time through shared experiences, mutual respect, and trust. When you overshare, you skip over the process of building a foundation, which can lead to relationships that feel shallow or unbalanced. Finally, it's important to recognize that oversharing is often rooted in insecurity. Many of us overshare because we're looking for validation, approval, or a sense of belonging. We believe that if we put everything out there, people will understand us better or accept us more fully. But in reality, this approach often has the opposite effect. Oversharing can make you seem uncertain or desperate for attention, which can diminish your influence in the way others perceive you. By learning to share selectively, you project confidence and self-assuredness qualities that naturally draw people toward you. Not everyone deserves access to your story. This is a simple yet profoundly important truth that often gets overlooked in a world where openness and vulnerability are celebrated without boundaries. Sharing your story can be a powerful way to connect with others, but it is equally crucial to recognize that not every person you meet has earned the right to know your personal experiences, struggles, and triumphs. Just because someone is curious about your life doesn't mean they have the best intentions or that they'll treat your story with the respect it deserves. When you freely share your story with everyone, you run the risk of exposing your most intimate thoughts and experiences to people who may not truly value or understand them. Some might listen out of genuine interest or empathy, but others may view your openness as an opportunity to judge, criticize, or exploit you. The truth is, not everyone has the emotional maturity or compassion to handle your story with care. Recognizing this is not about being distrustful, it's about being discerning. Your story holds incredible value because it's uniquely yours. It reflects the lessons you've learned, the pain you've endured, and the victories you've achieved. Sharing it too freely can sometimes diminish that value, especially when it's shared with people who don't appreciate its depth. There's a certain power in holding parts of your story back, in reserving it for those who have proven their trustworthiness over time. It's not about building walls, but about creating healthy boundaries that protect the parts of yourself that are most vulnerable. Boundaries are an essential part of protecting your story. They allow you to choose who you let into your inner world and who stays at the surface. Without boundaries, you might find yourself sharing deeply personal details with people who don't deserve to know them. This lack of discretion can leave you feeling exposed or even regretful. It's important to remember that you are the gatekeeper of your story. You have the right to decide how much you share, when you share it, and with whom. Not everyone who asks about your life has good intentions. Some people are simply curious, but their curiosity might not stem from a place of care or concern. Others may use the information you share to their advantage, whether that means gossiping about you, comparing themselves to you, or even undermining you. This doesn't mean you should live in fear of sharing your story, but it does mean being mindful of the risks involved. When you share your story with someone who hasn't earned your trust, you give them power over you. You allow them to hold a piece of your life, one they might not treat with the respect it deserves. This is why it's so important to be selective about who you open up to. Trust is something that should be built over time, through consistent actions and mutual respect. When you share too much too soon, you bypass the process of building that trust and leave yourself vulnerable to being misunderstood or even hurt. Your story is also a reflection of your identity, and sharing it with the wrong people can distort how others perceive you. When you share personal details with someone who doesn't truly know you or understand your journey, they might take those details out of context or form a skewed view of who you are. This can lead to misunderstandings and even damage your reputation. By keeping your story private until you're ready to share it with the right people, you maintain control over how it's presented and interpreted. There's also an emotional cost to sharing your story too freely. When you open up to someone who hasn't earned your trust, you risk feeling vulnerable, exposed, or even invalidated. If they respond with indifference, judgment, or dismissal, it can be deeply hurtful. On the other hand, when you share your story with someone who truly values it, the experience can be incredibly affirming. This is why it's so important to choose your audience wisely. Another important aspect of this is that not everyone is equipped to handle your story. Some people might lack the emotional maturity or life experience to truly empathize with what you've been through. They might unintentionally say or do things that make you feel worse, even if their intentions are good. By sharing your story only with those who are capable of offering genuine support and understanding, you protect yourself from these kinds of negative experiences. Protecting your story is also about protecting your energy. Sharing deeply personal details can be emotionally draining, especially if the other person doesn't respond in a way that feels supportive. When you reserve your story for those who genuinely care, you conserve your emotional energy for relationships and interactions that truly matter. This allows you to focus on building meaningful connections rather than wasting energy on people who don't value what you have to say. It's important to remember that your story is a gift, and not everyone deserves to receive it. Just as you wouldn't give a valuable possession to someone who doesn't appreciate it, you shouldn't share your story with someone who hasn't earned your trust. By being selective about who you open up to, you ensure that your story is treated with the care and respect it deserves. Protecting your boundaries keeps you in control. In a world that constantly demands access to every part of our lives, establishing and maintaining boundaries is essential for safeguarding your sense of self and preserving your personal power. Boundaries are not barriers to keep people out, but guidelines that define how much of yourself you choose to share, who you allow into your space, and how you interact with the world around you. When you set and protect your boundaries, you are asserting your right to control your own life, your narrative, and your energy. Boundaries create clarity in your relationships, both personal and professional. They send a clear message about what is acceptable and what is not. When people know your boundaries, they are less likely to overstep, and you are less likely to feel overwhelmed or taken advantage of. Without boundaries, you may find yourself in situations where others dictate how much of yourself you reveal or how much energy you expend on them, leaving you drained or even resentful. Maintaining boundaries ensures that you stay in control of your interactions and that they align with your values and priorities. Establishing boundaries also reinforces your self-respect. It's a way of saying, I value myself enough to protect my time, energy, and emotional well-being. When you respect your own boundaries, others are more likely to respect them too. People take cues from how you treat yourself. If you consistently allow your boundaries to be ignored or pushed aside, others may see that as permission to do the same. On the other hand, when you stand firm in your boundaries, you demonstrate confidence and self-worth, qualities that naturally command respect. Boundaries are particularly important when it comes to sharing personal information. In a world where oversharing is normalized, it can be challenging to hold back and keep certain aspects of your life private. But protecting your boundaries means being intentional about what you share and with whom. Not everyone has earned the right to know the intimate details of your life, and not everyone will treat that information with care. By maintaining boundaries around your personal story, you retain control over how much of yourself you give away and ensure that your story is shared only in ways that feel safe and empowering to you. Another critical aspect of boundaries is that they help you conserve your energy. Emotional and mental energy are finite resources, and without boundaries, you can easily deplete them by giving too much of yourself to others. Whether it's spending hours listening to someone else's problems, constantly explaining yourself, or dealing with the emotional fallout of oversharing, the lack of boundaries can leave you feeling exhausted and unfulfilled. When you set boundaries, you create space to focus on the things that truly matter to you, your goals, your passions, and your well-being. Boundaries also play a key role in preventing emotional manipulation. When you have clear boundaries, it becomes much harder for others to take advantage of you or use your vulnerabilities against you. People who respect your boundaries are less likely to try to control or manipulate you because they recognize and respect your autonomy. On the other hand, people who don't respect boundaries often rely on guilt, pressure, or emotional manipulation to get what they want. By standing firm in your boundaries, you send a strong message that you are not easily swayed or controlled. Protecting your boundaries allows you to maintain control over your narrative. When you share too much or allow others to push past your limits, you risk losing the ability to shape how you are perceived. Others may take fragments of your story and create their own interpretations, often without understanding the full context. This can lead to misunderstandings or even misrepresentations of who you are. By keeping certain aspects of your life private, you ensure that you remain the author of your own story and that it is told on your terms. It's also worth noting that protecting your boundaries fosters healthier relationships. When you set clear boundaries, you create a foundation of mutual respect and understanding. People who truly care about you will appreciate and honor your boundaries, while those who don't may reveal themselves as unwilling to respect your needs. Boundaries help filter out relationships that drain or harm you, allowing you to invest in connections that are supportive, respectful, and fulfilling. Boundaries are not static. They can evolve as you grow and change. What felt acceptable at one stage of your life may no longer align with your needs or values. Protecting your boundaries requires self-awareness and a willingness to reassess and adjust them as necessary. It's an ongoing process that demands attention and effort, but the rewards are worth it. When you honor your boundaries, you create a life that feels more authentic, balanced, and aligned with who you truly are. Maintaining boundaries also protects you from the emotional fallout of overextending yourself. When you give too much of your time, energy, or emotional resources to others, you may start to feel resentment, burnout, or a sense of being taken for granted. Boundaries act as a buffer, preventing you from reaching that point by ensuring that you prioritize your own well-being. They give you permission to say no when you need to and to put yourself first without guilt or shame. Authenticity doesn't require full transparency. This is a concept that is often misunderstood, especially in a culture that equates openness with honesty. While being authentic means staying true to yourself, it doesn't mean you are obligated to share every thought, feeling, or detail of your life with others. In fact, real authenticity lies in the ability to be selective about what you share while still remaining genuine and honest in how you present yourself. It's about Balancing openness with discernment, knowing that holding back certain aspects of your life doesn't make you any less authentic. Many people fall into the trap of believing that in order to be seen as real or relatable, they have to share everything. They feel pressure to put their whole selves on display, to air their struggles, successes, and vulnerabilities for everyone to see. But true authenticity doesn't require you to bear it all. It's not about putting your entire life on display. It's about showing up as your real self in a way that feels true to you. Being authentic means aligning your actions, words, and values, not oversharing to prove your sincerity. Transparency, when taken to the extreme, can actually detract from your authenticity. When you overshare, you risk losing the depth and meaning behind your experiences. Sharing too much can overwhelm others and dilute the impact of what you're trying to communicate. People may become desensitized to your story, or worse, they may misinterpret or misuse the details you've shared. Authenticity doesn't mean putting every part of yourself on display. It means being intentional about how you present yourself to the world. Being authentic also means understanding your audience and recognizing that not every person or situation requires the same level of openness. Different relationships and environments call for different levels of sharing. For example, the way you express yourself to a close friend may look very different from how you present yourself in a professional setting. This doesn't make you less authentic. It simply means you are being thoughtful about what is appropriate and meaningful in each context. Authenticity is not one size fits all. It's about adapting while staying true to your core values. Choosing not to be fully transparent doesn't mean you're hiding who you are. It means you're exercising your right to privacy and protecting the parts of yourself that are sacred or vulnerable. There's strength in knowing that you don't have to share everything in order to be honest or genuine. Some aspects of your life are meant to be kept private, either because they're still unfolding, because they're too personal to share, or simply because they belong to you and no one else. Selective sharing also allows you to maintain control over your narrative. When you share only what feels right and meaningful, you ensure that the story you tell is one you're comfortable with. Full transparency, on the other hand, can leave you feeling exposed or even regretful. Once something is shared, it's out of your hands, and not everyone will interpret your words or experiences in the way you intended. By being intentional about what you share, you retain the power to shape how others perceive you and how your story is told. It's also important to recognize that authenticity is about quality, not quantity. You don't need to share everything about yourself to make a genuine connection with someone. Sometimes a single meaningful interaction or insight can reveal more about who you are than hours of oversharing ever could. When you choose your words and actions thoughtfully, you create a deeper, more lasting impression. Authenticity isn't about volume, it's about depth and sincerity. Protecting your boundaries around transparency also helps to foster healthier relationships. When you share selectively, you create space for trust to develop naturally over time. Full transparency, especially early in a relationship, can sometimes feel overwhelming or even intrusive to the other person. By pacing your openness and sharing only what feels appropriate for the stage of the relationship, you build a foundation of mutual respect and understanding. Authenticity doesn't rush the process, it honors the natural flow of connection. Additionally, choosing not to be fully transparent allows you to maintain emotional balance. Oversharing can be emotionally draining, especially if the response you receive isn't what you hoped for. When you share less, you protect yourself from unnecessary emotional risks and conserve your energy for the things that truly matter. Authenticity doesn't mean putting your emotional well-being on the line. It means being honest with yourself about what you're ready and willing to share. Authenticity also requires self-awareness. It's about knowing who you are and what you stand for, rather than seeking validation through the act of sharing. When you feel the need to be fully transparent, it's often because you're looking for others to affirm your experiences or emotions. But true authenticity comes from within. It's about being comfortable in your own skin, regardless of how much or how little you choose to share with others. Finally, understanding that authenticity doesn't require full transparency allows you to create a sense of mystery and intrigue. When you don't reveal everything about yourself, you invite others to get to know you gradually. This approach often leads to deeper and more meaningful connections because it gives people the opportunity to discover who you are over time. Authenticity is not about giving everything away at once, it's about allowing your true self to unfold naturally. When you keep certain things to yourself, you hold on to your power. There's a subtle but profound strength in maintaining privacy about certain aspects of your life. In a world that constantly encourages us to share everything, the act of keeping things private can feel almost radical. But it is in that privacy where you find the ability to protect your energy, your focus, and your sense of self. By keeping parts of your life away from the eyes of others, you create a space that is entirely yours, a sanctuary where your thoughts, feelings, and plans remain untouched by outside influences. Holding on to your power starts with understanding that not everything needs to be shared, even with those closest to you. There is immense value in having parts of yourself that are known only to you. These private aspects of your life become a source of inner strength, a foundation that no one can shake. When you share too much, you give others the opportunity to insert their opinions, judgments, and energy into your world, which can sometimes dilute your own clarity and confidence. Keeping certain things to yourself ensures that your power remains within your control, untainted by external interference. One of the most empowering aspects of keeping things private is the freedom it gives you to navigate your life without unnecessary scrutiny. When you share too much, you open the door to opinions and judgments from others, even when they are unsolicited or unhelpful. Everyone has their own perspective, shaped by their unique experiences and biases. When you allow too many voices into your life, it can become challenging to hear your own. By keeping certain details to yourself, you silence the noise and create room for your intuition and inner voice to guide you. Privacy also gives you the ability to protect your emotional well-being. Not everyone has your best interests at heart, and not everyone is capable of understanding or supporting you in the way you need. When you share too much, you risk exposing yourself to criticism, gossip, or even jealousy. These reactions can be hurtful and draining, and they often have more to do with the other person's insecurities than with you. By keeping certain things private, you shield yourself from these negative influences and preserve your emotional energy for the things that truly matter. Another way that privacy helps you hold on to your power is by allowing you to maintain an element of unpredictability. When people know everything about you, they may feel like they have you figured out. They might assume they know how you'll act, think, or respond in any given situation. This predictability can make you vulnerable, as it allows others to anticipate your moves and potentially take advantage of them. Keeping certain things to yourself creates an aura of mystery, which can be a powerful tool in both personal and professional relationships. People are drawn to what they don't fully understand, and maintaining an air of mystery keeps them intrigued and engaged. In addition to preserving your emotional energy and creating intrigue, keeping things private can also enhance your focus and productivity. When you share your goals, plans, or ambitions with others, you open yourself up to their feedback, both positive and negative. While some feedback can be helpful, it can also be distracting or discouraging, especially if it comes from someone who doesn't fully understand your vision. By keeping your goals to yourself, you allow yourself to work on them without the weight of outside opinions. This privacy creates a sense of ownership and accountability that can propel you forward. Privacy also fosters a deeper sense of self-trust. When you rely on your own judgment and intuition rather than seeking validation from others, you strengthen your confidence and independence. Sharing too much can sometimes stem from a desire for approval or reassurance, but this can weaken your sense of self over time. By keeping certain things private, you affirm to yourself that your thoughts, feelings, and decisions are valid, even without external validation. This self-trust is a key component of personal power. Another important aspect of holding on to your power through privacy is the ability to protect your relationships. Oversharing can sometimes put unnecessary strain on your connections with others, especially if the information you share is deeply personal or sensitive. Not everyone is equipped to handle that level of intimacy, and some may feel overwhelmed or unsure of how to respond. By keeping certain things to yourself, you allow your relationships to unfold naturally without placing undue pressure on them. Privacy creates a healthy balance, where each person has the space to be themselves without feeling burdened by the other's experiences or emotions. Maintaining privacy also gives you the freedom to evolve and grow without external expectations. When you share too much about who you are or where you're headed, you risk boxing yourself into a particular identity or path. Others may start to associate you with the things you've shared, and their expectations can make it harder for you to change direction or explore new aspects of yourself. By keeping certain things private, you give yourself the flexibility to evolve on your own terms, free from the constraints of other people's perceptions. Finally, privacy empowers you to set the terms for how you engage with the world. When you choose what to share and what to keep private, you are actively shaping the narrative of your life. You decide what parts of yourself you want others to see and what parts you prefer to keep hidden. This control over your narrative is a form of self-respect and self-care. It allows you to present yourself authentically while still preserving the parts of your life that are sacred and personal.